I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly introduce you guys, and I think we should get started as people come in and out. So hi, everybody. I'm Rachel Weil. I'm one of the social studies teachers here at Ossining High School. So some of the people online I know some of the students I'm seeing. Some of you I don't know, but this is what I look like. And so you see two people here who we're going to be speaking to who are alumni of Ossining High School. One of them is Caleb Hersh.
Hi, everybody.
That's Caleb. And then we're also going to be speaking with Randi Fineberg.
Hi, guys.
And were you guys in the same grade? I feel like you might have been. Yeah. Am I right? Can I say what year I believe you both were graduating? Are you okay with that?
It's scary, but sure.
Yes.
Isn't it 2012 or is it 2013?
2013.
It's 13, yeah.
2013. And I had both of you in Advanced Placement World History. Mm-hmm. And I feel like what other grade classes, or was that it? I don't remember.
I think that was it.
No, I think I don't know. That one class is very impactful for me.
Yeah.
It definitely at least that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just bothered you to hang out the rest of the year.
The dream. So much. I'm going to quickly say selfishly that year marks such a changing point in my own life. Mm-hmm. That year you guys graduated. I mean, I got married that year, right? Yeah. And then I became a parent shortly after you guys graduated. So this is your grade was so profoundly changing. Mm-hmm. And I'm so thrilled to be seeing you. Would each of you be willing just to describe a little bit about, maybe what you could do is talk a little bit about like, where are you at right now, professionally, schooling, maybe a little bit about how, and then we'll go back and we'll talk about, okay, so you graduate in 2013, like how do you get from point A to point B, C, D to where you are in this moment? Yeah?
Mm-hmm. That sounds great.
I'm gonna mute and listen to you guys.
Okay. Caleb, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I actually am. I'm speaking to you from across the street from Ossining High School right now. So I'm still Ossining based right now, and I currently work as a legislative aide in the government of Westchester County. So I work for Catherine Borgia, who I don't know if any of you know. She is a Westchester County legislator. She represents Ossining as well as Briarcliff, Croton, and a little bit of Cortland, a little Peekskill. So what my job basically is each of the legislators gets one full-time support staff member. So I handle basically generally like all of the administrative aspects of her office. So that could include kind of relatively straightforward clerical work, just like answering her emails, making sure, all correspondence coming in is sort of handled. And it can involve more complicated work, such as when constituents or, when people who live in the district call in and say, hey, I'm having a problem with my child care subsidies, or like I'm having a problem. I'm in danger of becoming homeless, and I need some help. Or I have, I'm worried about possibly somebody. There's a suspected case of abuse or something like that. The counties in New York State handle a lot of issues involving social services. They administer food stamps, so they administer a lot of food assistance for people. They administer a lot of housing assistance programs, and so basically it's a lot of dealing with people's concerns, and often they call their elected officials. They call like a legislator when they haven't been served by the government, when just talking to a government agency hasn't helped them. And then what will happen is that I'll follow up with the agency. I'll say, hey, here's what's going on, because we make policy. It's very, in the legislature is to to the county government what Congress is to the federal government, to the U.S. government. We write and we pass laws, and so we exercise some oversight over the agencies, and we make sure that they're implementing the laws that we pass. And so often, a lot of what I'm involved with is making sure that people that the agencies are kind of doing their jobs for particular constituents. And then I also work a little bit on outreach, so getting Legislator Borgia involved in the community, making sure that I help set up town hall meetings so that she's out and talking. People know that she's there, and if they need help, and then also work on some of the legislative items. So one thing that we were doing is that Westchester County, and again, anybody here who is 16 and 17, you're now able to pre-register to vote, and that was a law that New York State passed in 2019. But the counties, each county has a board of elections, and that they're responsible for actually making sure that the laws that New York State passes happen, like that the mechanics of like making sure that when you, as a 16 or a 17-year-old, fill out a voter registration form and you hand it in, you mail it in, that you're recorded as not being registered to vote, but you will be when you turn 18. So the mechanics of all of that happening, of all of the back end kind of logistics of election policy happen at the county level. And so we formed a working group that basically a bunch of legislators came together to issue recommendations to the Board of Elections on how to implement this law. And I was staffed to that. I was basically put on the staff of that working group 2 years ago. So those are some of the examples of some of the day-to-day. Obviously it's very political position. It's, but you have to have a sense of what's going on politically. You have to have a sense of current events. I spend a lot of time, keeping up to date with the news. And so that's basically the day-to-day of what's going on, of what happens in my life and in my job.
That's why I wanted you to go first, because I had no idea, and I really wanted to know what you did. I was so excited for you.
I will also just, if I might be so bold to say, that I'm thrilled by both of your career paths, because I think they both speak to your strengths, right? In terms of like being people, right?
Yeah.
People. You're people. So I'm really thrilled about this. Randy has a completely different career path. It's just so exciting.
Yeah.
Which is great.
So Caleb, you went to Brown, right? Caleb and I as Wild said, we graduated the same year. Caleb went to Brown. I graduated, and I didn't have the grades that I was so happy with, where I felt comfortable going off to a 4-year university. So I went to WCC my first year of college, which at the time, I felt so embarrassed and was so ashamed that I wasn't doing the norm. And looking back, one, I saved a ton of money. We love that. Two, it gave me opportunity to, one, get better grades, but two, also realize what I want. And I worked 2 jobs while also going to WCC. So from there, I went to SUNY Geneseo to study psychology. We love a SUNY. That was the only SUNY school I applied to. I got scholarships to go other places, and my parents said, absolutely not, you're going to a SUNY school. But I always joked that it kicked my butt, and I wouldn't want my butt kicked anywhere else. I really had a great experience at Geneseo, where I studied psychology, because I knew, like as Wild said, I'm a people's person. I love people, and I have been babysitting since I was 12. So I love children, and I wanted to get into maybe psychology or maybe go into social work. I wasn't quite sure. And so I was going through SUNY Geneseo, and even though my degree is a BA, there was only one difference between a neuroscience degree in Geneseo and my psychology degree, which is neuroscience. So I was doing so much science, it was coming out of my nose. And I was struggling academically, but I still graduated with a degree I'm proud to have. But my senior year, I did not work once I went to Geneseo, which I wanted to do, but my parents really wanted me to focus on school. But my senior year came, and I was like, I need to be busy. I'm the type of person that needs to have a lot of projects in order to get stuff done. So on the main street of Geneseo, there is a tiny little liquor store, and they had a help wanted sign. And I walked in there, and I just thought it was the most charming little store. And I applied. I put in my application, and she did not get back to me. So I followed up, and she still was, oh, well, maybe we'll have an interview. And for whatever reason, I was like, I'm getting this job. I'm making this happen. And so she hired me. And I wasn't the only, I was actually one of many college kids who hired. The owner was a social worker by day. She owned a bunch of real estate in the town of Geneseo, and she owned this liquor store. And so she was very well educated, very well put together woman. And she told all of us, if I'm hiring a bunch of college kids, you are not going to get the discounted booze without having to work for it. So we had homework assignments that we had to do for her. We had to show up for tastings, and we had to stay up to date. And that's how I got into wine, because I was forced to. No, I'm kidding. But with my job, she gave us responsibilities, and learning about just this topic, I decided, oh, I really like this. And it also, going to OHS, I love Miss Wild's class. I love Jaffis's class. I love Mr. Ninos's classes. So social studies was something I was strong in, and wine and spirits is something that is, they exist, they're hand in hand. So I realized, oh, I can take my psychology degree, which I use every day. I can go back to a topic that I really love, which is social studies, and then kind of incorporate the two to sell something which does bring community together, because that's the purpose and intention of wine and spirits. So the title wine consultant, I'm not going to say it is made up, but you could just say I work at a liquor shop. But I do, if you are my client, if you walk in the store and decide to work with me. However, that being said, I do have clients that reach out to me that say, I have business partners in places X, Y, and Z. I would like to send them X, Y, and Z. What can you do for me? So I send them back a list with a little description and different pricings, and say, this is what you can do. I'm also just in charge of day-to-day inventory and keeping the store pretty and wonderful. And I actually am fortunate enough where I assist a sommelier. And for those who don't know, a sommelier is a wine expert. So I've been really lucky to be able to learn and to grow from him. And I think Caleb can speak to this, because we are, yes, we're professionals and we're in our industries, but we are still looked at as the kids and the babies. And so it's so nice when people actively say, I'm going to take you, you're going to be my student. I don't have to make you my student. But I'm going to be your mentor. You're going to be my mentee. And that's, so I'm really lucky in that respect.
Caleb and Randy, I see, first of all, there's a couple of questions for you in the comment section, but I want to just, before anything else, because I think both of you have very front-facing jobs, right? Where like your personality, the need to advocate for yourself and for others is very important in your work. Can I ask, what role has rejection played so far in your adult life? And I'm not saying that for you to have to reveal anything so frightening and deep, but like, I think that, because it sounds like, I don't want anyone to think that you guys have become successful just because you snapped your fingers. How, you know what I mean? So like, what has rejection played a role in getting jobs? Also, what are I mentioned this to you guys before we started, but are there life lessons you've learned? Thank you. Are there life lessons that you've learned that no textbook, right, none of your teacher student relationships could have built you, like, right? So prepared you for.
Just to quickly answer Mr. Jaffes's question, no, that's why my parents sent me to a SUNY school, because his question was, do you have student loans? I don't, because I was lucky enough to have that financial support from my parents. And that's also why they said you're going to a SUNY, it's the more affordable option. And awesome, I'm glad I did it. But Ms. Weil, to answer your question, when you go to college, I think it was Mr. Minos said that college isn't hard, it's just jumping through hoops. And that's absolutely true, because you're not just dealing with your academics, you're building your social life, and you also are still building your relationship with your family at home. And so life happens, and you have to be able to juggle that along with your professional life. So no textbook can teach you that, because no textbook can predict the future. If you find it, like, swing me a link. But I think that was my biggest realization in college, because I had a lot of life happen to me.
Yeah. So to answer Mr. Jaffes's question as well, I don't. I generally depended on parental or familial support through college. And I recognize that that's an extremely lucky position to be in. That's not going to be the case for the vast, probably most people. It also means that, I feel something more of an obligation to do something that is like sort of socially good, especially because I'm coming into this at a weird time. I haven't mentioned it yet, but I mentioned it to Randy and to Ms. Weil, Mr. Jaffes, Mr. Yonkler, that I'm actually leaving my job in about a month. I'm going to law school, and I'm probably going to be going to NYU for law school, which is again another, a pretty that I do have some of a scholarship at. I was able to get, but it's an expensive program, and it's a program that tends to put, as a result of its expense, it puts a lot of people into corporate law. I'm going to be lucky enough that I'm going to be able to minimize my debt load as well in law school, and I feel I don't want to go into corporate law as a result. I want to do something that's going to be a little bit more in tune with helping people. And my job right now in government, it's not something that's, it's like I want to really make sure that I'm sort of doing something that is going to, because I don't have as much of that obligation to pay off tons and tons of loans. I want to be able to do something that's, really going to be able to help people. I'd say in terms of learning, my sort of pathway in general was like that. I went to college. I majored in political science. In high school, I had sort of been kind of a science nerd, but all of my favorite classes ended up being my history classes. Ms. Weil's class, Mr. Tyner's class, AP U.S. history class. I found that more, and I also was really active in JSA. So I kind of gradually found an interest in sort of in politics, and I really enjoyed when I was in Mr. Ninos's global history class, talking about current events as he likes to do with his students. That was always my favorite part of the class. So I kind of realized that was what I wanted to do. And so I came into college thinking I'd major in political science, I'd do something generally political. And then also, but when I was at the end of high school, I was also, I knew Catherine because her daughter actually, Maddie, Joel, was in my graduating year. So and she encouraged me to get involved in the local Democratic Party. So at the end of high school, I actually became a district leader, which is basically a position where it's just a member of the local party's committee, and you make sure that the Democratic candidates are getting on the ballot every year. So you go witness you need a certain number of signatures from registered Democrats. So you have to go around and get people to sign it. And so it was actually, this connection I had fostered already. And so when I was graduating college, and I ended up actually taking another year to get a graduate degree from Brown, it was a new program.
That was a 5-year program.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I'm kind of getting to it, but yes, building relationships with people locally, like the sort of decisions that put me on my way ended up being based a lot on relationships that I already made. And it was the thing that I learned, I think, was like that you can't really like plan a lot of those things, that you just should put kind of your good, the best parts of yourself out into the world, and like the things that, and treat, be kind, and be, kind of do as much as you can to kind of, like build your relationships, and you don't know how they're going to pay off. And when I left grad school, I was looking for a job, and this sort of popped up, and it ended up working out really well.
Absolutely. I got my current job off of a connection that I thought was just like a friendly, everyday business relationship. And he recommended me to my current boss. And then I actually was just in Tribeca this morning, which turns out I didn't need to go to Tribeca. It was supposed to be a phone interview, but whatever, I'm fine about it. But I also got this job connection through to someone else. Especially the stage Caleb and I are at, we're building our reputations within our industries, which you don't realize you're doing that as it's happening. So when you are meeting people, whatever position they might be in, it's so important to just put your best foot forward, and to be kind no matter what you're doing.
And don't ever burn bridges, right?
Yeah.
And
I wanted to one time so badly. You're not gonna you are not going to love a lot of your bosses, and that's okay. You're always going to learn from them.
So I was just thinking about this, and because I think one of the mistakes that people could make in hearing either of your stories, because you both have grown up so beautifully, right, and blossomed, and you both, even though you went very different academic paths, you both made your paths work so well. Is it fair to say, though, that all of this has happened? Is that Alice?
I told her. I was like, there's no way I'm not, like, she was like, there's no way I'm not seeing Miss Weil.
Country? Okay, so Alice is another one of our alumni. What country are you in, Alice?
Hello.
What country are you in?
I'm in Switzerland.
Okay, you're crying. I'm not crying. You're crying.
Alice, you also wanted to see me, right?
Okay. So, Mr. Yonkler,
Miss Weil.
Wait a minute. Mr. Javis and Mr. Yonkler, can I start interviewing Alice as well? You're totally okay with this, right? Okay, we're doing this.
100%.
Okay, so everybody. Okay,
Wow, what a group. What a group.
So Alice had a completely different path professionally, and it's a very specific and unique experience. And so Alice, you graduated high school in 3 years instead of 4 because you had such a specific path. Do you want to tell everybody what your path was?
Sure. Wait, should I turn on my video? I guess.
You don't have to.
Whoa. Can you see me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So, okay, I didn't expect to be speaking. Yeah, I mean, I had a very specific path, I guess, because I had started very, very early on with music, and I kind of didn't really exactly go through a period of kind of choosing what I wanted to be into. It was kind of something that I grew up playing the piano, and it was intense from very, very early on, and somehow I knew that I wanted to continue with it. And I had found an amazing teacher in Spain. I think my first year of high school, actually. And I had started basically traveling to Europe to have lessons like once or twice a year, something like that. And I remember at the time my parents had brought it as an idea to graduate early, but that was not what I wanted to do because I was an actual very much a school nerd and really enjoyed schoolwork. And actually, it might be because my parents didn't put pressure on me in terms of school that I really wanted to do well academically. And so actually, I told myself I would stay the full 4 years. Definitely not. And I don't know actually how it happened, but I think I was practicing one day and it just came to mind like I want to go to Spain. I want to do this, and I think I can. I also didn't know if it was possible to do it in 3 years, but somehow it felt like it was my path at the time. So it was also it was kind of made very easy by everyone at the school. So I'm very thankful to all of you because you all helped so much in helping in making it happen. And it was a lot of work. I remember that it was a very like there really was a lot of schoolwork. So I definitely empathize with anyone who might be struggling with the workload or things like that. But it's so worth it because I feel like I got the full experience and in less time. So anyway, the point is I had a very different path and I started, I basically focused on music since graduation. And I lived in Spain for 3 years where I studied in Madrid. And now I've been in Switzerland, in Basel, for 5 years now. So, yeah, I don't know.
Alice, I'm sorry, Ms. Weil. You were 2013 too, right?
Yeah.
What an amazing group. What an amazing class that was, truly.
I met Randi in Miss Weil's class, actually.
Alice is one of my bestest, dearest friends, and I love her so much. And I love you too, Caleb.
Thank
I
you.
love Caleb so much. Let me ask each of you, are there very direct ways that COVID has changed how you do your work? And yeah, could you just speak to that? Like how has the last year been for you?
You guys start.
I mean, it's been really hard. You know, I mean, I'm not gonna say like it hasn't not been hard, but you know, for the most part, I've been able to work from home. But when you're in sort of a public-facing like position, you don't. I mean, there's kind of three things. There's categories of people. There's people who can totally work from home. There's people who have to work, from where they are. And then there's kind of this middle of people who it would be better for them to work from an office. And in part of this position is about being out in the community. So it's been kind of difficult, especially it's also been difficult because it's interfered with the mechanics of just like the legislature itself. Like it's harder to just it depends on, there are laws that say you have to have open meetings and those have to be sort of waived, or you have to like adjust to let them be live streamed or things like that instead. And so there's just the mechanics of getting people in to discuss and pass laws, and especially in emergency situations when you have to do it make adjustments really fast, are often, it often is very difficult. And then the needs have just grown significantly. The biggest part for me is that there's been a lot of people who've come asking about unemployment issues. There have been an unfortunate and surprising number of people who have lost loved ones due to COVID and have needed assistance paying for funeral expenses. That's one of the most tragic things that we've had to deal with. And luckily, in the latest stimulus, actually, the federal law that was passed with all of this money for COVID relief, there is now the Federal Emergency Management Agency has funding for burial costs. And so, and getting that to people and administering that is, you know, and just directing people, because, you know, people will call. It's hard to know what level of government handles what. You know, the local government, the state government, the federal government. And so what people call all the time with issues that are not directly, they don't deal with county agencies, but I have to point them in some direction. So if it's unemployment, I have to point them to the state Department of Labor. If it is these burial costs, you know, it's to the Federal Emergency Management Agency, which has been responsible for it. And it's just, I mean, it's been it's very unfortunate. I mean, it's been really hard to have to deal with this level of need, and especially early on to deal with kind of not having answers and having to get used to not having answers for people has been very hard for me, because I am the kind of person that needs to fix everything. And so it's on both a personal level and also just on a level of a world level of the actual needs that have come in. It's been an adjustment, and it's been, right now it's in a better situation than, you know, in terms of addressing these needs than at previous points. But I'd be lying if I was saying if it was anything but, you know, extremely difficult. So.
And just to, you know, piggyback on that for a second, Caleb, people go to government for the answers, right? And to tell them that you don't have the answers must be extremely hard. Yeah,
and I mean, you lose faith, and I want to say that I you know, that you shouldn't, but like I can't blame people for feeling like the people who they are putting in, you know, are electing it have failed them, and it's so hard when you work at a local level of government, where a lot of the money that you're receiving to do certain things is coming from higher levels of government, and you can't necessarily depend on it, and you have to make do with very, very little, or when you're depending solely, you know. So we've worked a lot with community organizations to help, you know, but nonprofits are also, they're sort of running on fumes. I mean, you know, the needs are just so great. And so what I will say is that it was very heartening to see very kind of indirect and networks of people coming together to help their neighbors. And I mean, that's always been the case in emergency situations. People tend to be helpful to each other in any way that they can. For me, as somebody who works in government, and I think, you know, also for the legislators themselves, I mean, it has been difficult to not always have answers, and as it always will be, but particularly now when the needs are so high.
Because we only,
I'm so sorry. I don't want to, you know, I want Randy and Alice.
No. I just want to point out we only have 5 minutes left, and I'm wondering if very quickly, if each of you could give so first of all, I'm going to say for both Randy and Alice, I'm going to assume, and I'm saying this in a little bit of a sarcastic way, but also in a genuine way, that both your careers have taken off and been harmed simultaneously because of COVID. Like, I could imagine, Randy, on the one hand, stores aren't open. On the other hand, people are shopping.
I have been this whole,
you know what I mean? But and also that's all I got.
Yeah. Touching on how COVID has affected my business, especially after what Caleb said, this is hard to talk about, but over the United States, purchases of alcohol has gone up 33%. Within my business personally, it's gone up 50%. I work on commission, so that's great for me. However, but it also, and I'm not going to preach to you guys understand that alcohol is a mind-altering substance. No matter what, once you turn 21, alcohol does not become a right. It is a privilege. And if it is not something that works in your lifestyle, then I hope you don't feel pressure to use it. It can be wonderful, but I also have had to deal with families coming to me and saying, hey, like, we need you to not serve this person. And I really also, not everyone who comes into my store has that person to be able to say that. And then I have to go to my boss and say, what can we do? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we're not allowed to do anything. And so going into alcohol, especially because my plan was to work with special education children. And I was like, how can I go from being so selfless to being so selfish? And then I realized I'm young and this is my time to be selfish. But then having to deal with this, a totally different selfless problem, that was very difficult, because I am the type of person who wants to help and to be there. But I just, mostly I can't. But it has been quite joyful being able to send gifts and to make interpersonal connections, because I am a part of, I do send gifts for funerals, and I spend a lot of time dealing with clients on the phone. And so being able to build on community, a lot of the times it's not the funerals, a lot of times it is for positive things. So that has been nice to be able to get to know the community that I'm working in more.
Unmute myself. So I think like Randi's field is particularly complex in this moment in a different way. Mm-hmm. I know that a lot of you have to go, and I'm also going to start teaching in a few minutes, but I just want to point out to everyone, I can only imagine in a very different way that Alice must be affected professionally, because people aren't going to concert halls, and you're a concert pianist, and you perform a lot with symphonies, and symphonies cannot get on stages right now in Europe. Yeah. And I'm curious, in 30 seconds or less, because we have to say goodbye to so many people, could you tell us how you're adjusting in your profession?
So pretty much every single musical event and concert was canceled for a year and a half, or almost 2 years, including this year. Basically one after another. It wasn't like, okay, everything's gone. It was like, okay, let's keep it until the last moment, and everything got canceled. So I'm really lucky and thankful that at least the school that I'm like finishing my studies at now has stayed open this year. I mean, last year it did close down, but has stayed open, so we could have like internal things. But speaking about general concerts, I haven't like worked in a very, very long time. So right now I'm taking part in 2 international competitions, which were already postponed for a year and a half, and now they've gone fully virtual. So basically the format is that I record everything for the competitions, and I send it in, and then they get streamed, which is what's actually going on right now. So that's basically the new reality, although I feel like concerts really can't go on like that. It's not really a reality to have it fully virtual, because there's so much music out there, and there's a lot of emotion and a lot of the experience that doesn't get across. So I feel like everything in my field of lifestyle is kind of on hold.
Your Instagram lives are awesome. They're so good. Love them so much.
I love the 3. I'm so grateful that I got to see you. This is such a highlight for me. We are exhausted, and I feel like seeing you guys is so pleasurable. And oh, you guys,